Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strohm bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Channeling History. We're the only show where we speak to the souls that made things happen in the past, and we're brought to you on the Parix Radio Network. I'm Barry Strohm, your host, and I'll be doing the channeling tonight.
I'm Connie Strohm, your co-host. Last week, the Parix servers had a problem, so we did not do the show. But the week before, we spoke with Walter Cronkite, Edward R. Murrow, and David Brinkley. The show is available on our YouTube channel, or if you'd like to download it, go to Podomatic.com and search Channeling History. Tonight, we will be investigating 3 historic incidents. First, we will discuss the Roswell incident from 1947, where debris was found and was said to be from an alien accident. Then we will discuss the moon landing with Neil Armstrong and dedicate the last portion of our show to the Bermuda Triangle and solve the 1945 mystery of when 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers disappeared with 14 men without a trace. We will not be taking a break tonight, so we can spend as much time as possible channeling with our guests. I'll be asking the questions of our guests this evening, as usual.
Okay, and all of our shows are available on our YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strohm. If you'd like to download them, go to Podomatic.com and just search Channeling History. We would hope that you tell your friends about our show because we would continue to like to grow our audience. Now, we always give a small disclaimer because we have no idea what our spirit guests are going to say. So the opinions or statements voiced on our show are the channel words of the spirits, do not necessarily reflect our opinions, those of the Parix Network or of our sponsors. Now, before we channel, we always say a prayer of protection as well. So Connie will now say the prayer, and we will begin to channel with our guests tonight.
God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and keep us safe from all things that will harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Keep us safe from our egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God. Amen.
Okay, now we've got a very interesting show tonight, hopefully as always, but we're going to begin with something a little bit different. We're going to begin speaking about the Bermuda Triangle. On the 5th of December, 1945, 5 U.S. Avenger torpedo bombers and 14 men, led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor, comprised of Flight 19. They took off from Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station in Florida on a routine 3-hour training mission. Radio contact with the flight was lost and the flight disappeared. A Mariner rescue aircraft with 13 men aboard was dispatched and it disappeared as well. We are going to speak with the spirit of Lieutenant Taylor tonight and solve the mystery of Flight 19 and the Mariner rescue aircraft. So, Connie, I know the lieutenant is here with us, so let's begin.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, Lieutenant. You were highly qualified with over 2,500 hours of flight time, and each of your flight pilots had over 300 hours of flight time. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I was obviously a naval air pilot. I had many hours. As you mentioned, I didn't realize it was quite that many, but I apparently had 2,500 hours of flight time. I was in charge of the flight known as Flight 19. I had students with me, but each of them, as you said, had 300 hours. We all thought that this was just going to be a ordinary and typical training mission. I had been a pilot during World War II. I had flown multiple combat missions. I was probably one of the better experienced pilots. I had opted to stay in the Air Force Reserve. And I guess that's about all I can say about myself.
Okay, the Grumman Avenger torpedo bomber was a pretty good aircraft. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, in those days, things were very different. Torpedoes were the bane of existence for the large battleships or destroyers. And we would have to use a special plane to launch the torpedoes. They were basically a dive bomber. They would dive low under the water, release the torpedo, and then go into the air as rapidly as possible because you knew you were taking on anti-aircraft fire. They were very dangerous. Torpedo missions were very dangerous. You would get fairly close to the ship that you were trying to sink. But they were very good aircraft. They were highly respected, and for their times, they were very effective.
Okay, you reported that your compass was out. Were there compasses out on all the planes?
Yes. This was a very simple mission. The legs of our trip were laid out, and nothing should have gone wrong. After all, there were multiple planes and multiple compasses involved, so if you had problems on one ship, you would think that you would get it solved. However, my compass went out. We were well out to sea. We could not see land. It was very interesting because our planes had been carefully checked out before we left. When I called to my other pilots, they were having problems with their compasses as well. We had really no idea what was going on, but in those days, it was very difficult to navigate without your compasses. We called the naval air stations, and we were having trouble even with our verbal transmissions. It was a very strange time for all of us, and we really had no idea what was taking place.
How was it possible for all the planes to lose their compasses?
It wasn't. That was what we were thinking. We gave orders to stay. We stayed as close to each other as possible, and we were trying to figure out where we were. When you're out over the ocean, everything looks alike. We just simply lost our bearings. Now you would say, why didn't you just simply follow the sun? The United States is a big country. You were to the east, you could go to the west of the setting sun. We were having trouble controlling our planes as well. When we tried to turn them, they wouldn't let us turn. We simply had to keep flying in this direction. It was an incredible thing. None of us had any idea what to do. We flew, our planes ran out of gas, and we ditched together, and eventually we all passed together. Once I got onto the other side, I found out what truly had taken place. Now, we had heard stories about flying in the Bermuda Triangle, but we were tough combat pilots, and we never really thought that much about it. Once we arrived over here, after we'd passed, our guides told us that our planes had flown into a large wormhole. Now, I had never really even heard of what they were referring to as a wormhole, but there are anomalies in the atmosphere. They're compounded by energies. They told us that there were special energies in the air in what we refer to as the Bermuda Triangle. The guides referred to them as ley lines. That's what they said humans call them. But because of these special electrical energies, apparently anomalies can form in the atmosphere. Now, we had seen some strange clouds in front of us, but there was this big clear opening into them. And we flew into this clear opening, and apparently that was the opening to a wormhole. And once you get into these things, if it doesn't end, you don't get out of them. Apparently your speeds increase in an airplane, and you're not even aware these things are taking place. It's like basically you've entered another dimension. And this dimension took us out to sea. Once we were so far out into the ocean, we didn't have the fuel to get back. They told us a little bit more, our guides did, about wormholes. They are not unique. Other people have been into them. And apparently there are many of these things in the Bermuda, what we refer to as the Bermuda Triangle. There are other places in the world where there are energy anomalies such as this. But apparently that is what happened to us. We flew into a wormhole. It took us out to sea, and we didn't have the fuel to return.
Do you know what happened to the Mariner rescue ship?
The Mariner rescue ship had an internal problem and exploded. There were, in fact, people that saw the explosion take place, people on large ships. I think what happened was that the location was miscalculated. They never apparently even found much. There was some debris, but it was simply another unknown incident that takes place in the triangle.
Yeah. Is there any truth to what takes place in the Bermuda Triangle? I mean, it sounds like there is.
Once we got over here, we realized that there are definitely energy anomalies. Modern equipment can respond to some of these anomalies. Keep in mind, our navigation equipment was quite primitive in those days. But yes, it is definitely a place where there are very, very strange energies.
Okay. Thank you so much for enlightening us. I really appreciate it. Let's ask our guide, Laura, about the Bermuda Triangle. Laura, thanks for offering to help out. What happens in the area known as the Bermuda Triangle?
The lieutenant was quite accurate in what he was saying. It's an area of high energies. There are many different things about the Earth that people still do not exactly understand. In the old days, the ancients understood it and actually built things such as pyramids on ley lines of these high energies. Many of the aliens that tried to lead them would help use these energy lines. It is definitely a place of high energy, but it is not the only place. There are other places around the world.
Yeah, we have a quick question from one of our listeners. How many planes were involved in this?
5.
Okay.
There were 5 planes involved.
Okay. Do ley lines occur anywhere else in the world?
Absolutely. They encircle the world. And where ley lines intersect, there is greater energy. There are intersections of ley lines in the triangle. There are ley lines intersections in places close to Alaska, in the Gulf of Alaska. There are intersection points near Japan. So there are definitely different areas of the world where mysteries do happen, where people simply disappear. These energies are conducive to formation of wormholes. Sometimes these anomalies are quite small. Sometimes people fly into them cover a lot more distance than they think they do. They almost always come out not knowing where they are. And when you don't know where you are over the ocean, you can have great problems. Today, there are many, many ways to navigate. So there are safety nets, shall we say, but they are definitely a problem.
How are wormholes associated with ley lines?
Their creation can come from the increased energy of energy line intersections. Where these lines cross, the energies are much greater. You can actually trace these lines of energy around the Earth, and there are people that have plotted them. It is simply an anomaly of nature.
What would you tell us about wormholes in the atmosphere?
I would tell you that they exist. There's actually more of them than you think there are. Today, modern aircraft has the ability not to reflect these wormholes as much. Modern aircraft, in most instances, flies above the elevation of them. They occur more frequently in the lower atmosphere, but there are actually wormholes in space, and alien ships have known for millennium how to take advantage of these wormholes. They can intentionally fly into them and accelerate and move at incredible speeds through them. It is something that humans have yet to learn about.
Is there any way to identify the entrance to a wormhole?
It is usually just simply appears as an opening in a storm cloud. That is the one way to do it. There are sometimes, as you look, you may see something that looks like a crease in the air, a crease in the clouds, but they're very, very hard to identify.
Once you enter a wormhole, is there any way out?
For high-speed aircraft, for powerful engines, if it is not a strong wormhole, there are possibilities. They can be in the water. Ships can enter them. That is why ships have disappeared in the triangle as well. Today, with modern technologies, you are not seeing as many incidents as you did in the past.
Just how dangerous is the Bermuda Triangle?
It can be very dangerous. People can get in with smaller craft, can get involved in these different anomalies. You can have rogue waves that are created by these energies. Caution is the word. Caution should always be the word when you're traveling on the ocean. But there are definitely areas where the risks are greater than others.
So the basic thing is the people that disappear are the people that accidentally got into the wormholes. But not everybody gets into a wormhole in the Bermuda Triangle, correct?
That is correct, but it is also possible that if they get involved with a rogue wave, suddenly a ship is facing a wave that is 90 to 100 feet tall, and it comes out of nowhere. They get caught broadside, and quite often it happens so fast that they don't even have time to react. So there are many things that the mysterious energies of Mother Nature can create.
Thank you, Laura. You are definitely our go-to soul. Okay, next, we're going to be discussing the Roswell incident.
Okay. In 1947, the United States Air Force reported that a metallic and rubber type of debris from a military balloon was recovered near Roswell, New Mexico. The newspaper, the local Roswell newspaper, reported a flying saucer was captured on a ranch near Roswell, New Mexico. The Army responded by sending individuals out to the debris. They held a meeting of the local newspapers, and the debris was shown to them by Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marcel. He was one of the first people dispatched to inspect the incident. The debris was discovered by the ranch owner. His name was Max Brazel. He is the one that reported it to the Army. When the Army decided to hold their newspaper conference with Lieutenant Colonel Marcel involved, they dispatched a general to handle the incident. In 1970, the colonel stated in an interview that he thought that the debris that was found on the Brazel property was extraterrestrial. That set off a bunch of investigations, a bunch of conspiracies. Now, Colonel Marcel was one of the first Army investigators dispatched to the Brazel Ranch. So he had a total understanding of what the Army was doing and what he really saw. So we're blessed to have the spirit of Lieutenant Colonel Marcel with us tonight. So Connie, let's ask him a few questions.
Yes, thank you, sir, for being with us. The newspapers were originally very specific in reporting that a flying saucer had crashed. How did they get that information?
The property owner had told a couple of his friends about it, and the friends notified the newspapers. It wasn't as a result of any information that was given out by the Army.
Yeah. What was your role in the investigation of the debris?
Well, I was the first on the scene, so I reported it back to headquarters, and they immediately dispatched a large group of individuals. We had wreckers, trucks, security people. They immediately put a security perimeter around the property. But since I was there, I was chosen to go along to the meeting where the so-called debris was shown to the newspaper reporters.
What did you actually find when you arrived at the site?
When we arrived at the site, we realized that it was not an ordinary crash. It had covered quite a bit of area. It had what looked like bodies involved with it. There was a lot of metal that we couldn't identify. There was some material that appeared lightweight. It was something very special. And when I reported it back to the base, they responded accordingly.
Yeah. Will you describe the bodies that you found at the site?
Most of them were not in very good shape. They had large eyes. Many of them were burned. Many of it looked like they would have been about 5 foot tall. They were certainly not human bodies.
Did any of the bodies survive the crash?
What I saw, there were no survivors.
Where were the bodies taken?
They were originally taken back to the Roswell Air Station. Then they were taken to a place where a coroner took a look at them, did autopsies, and then I was not totally aware of where they were taken after that.
What can you tell us about Area 51?
Area 51 is very, very real. It's a very large base out in the middle of the desert. Security is very intense. If you tried to get on the base, you would find that you would have made a very bad choice. A lot of secret equipment experiments have been conducted there. a lot of experimentation takes place. The Area 51 is one of the truly secretive areas where our government conducts experiments. It does many things. I was never personally aware of it, but I was told that they do interact with extraterrestrials on that base.
This would have been a great opportunity to disclose the alien presence. Why did the Army react by lying about the incident?
The Army is committed to the alien population to secrecy. I'm told that there has been agreement between the aliens and our government for many, many years. We allow them to conduct abductions, to try to study humans and try to help them. In return, we keep the secret of their presence. This is something that very few people really know the details to, but it is certainly a reality.
So at the news conference, you presented balloon material. Was that fake?
Absolutely. It was from a weather balloon, but it was certainly not the debris that we collected at the site.
Did you fear for your own safety?
They told me that I needed to be sworn to secrecy. They said that if I spoke, that I would be put into the brig. They told me that what I knew was a risk to national security, and if I whispered a word of it, I would be thrown out of the military and I would lose all of my retirement.
Okay, in 1970, you stated that you believed the material was alien. What changed?
What changed was I was no longer in the military. People were speaking out. There were others that were talking about the fact that Roswell actually did occur. There were others that were speaking, and I felt that it would be safe. I didn't go into detail. I did say that I thought the material was of alien origin. I did talk a little bit more about what the debris was, but I never did disclose all of the secrets that I knew.
One of our listeners would like to know what caused that saucer to crash. Does anybody know?
I'm not aware, but I think the people that you will be channeling next will be able to answer that.
Ah, you gave a tease to our listeners. Thank you, sir. So anyway, why are they still working so hard at maintaining the lie with so many people seeing things? A lot of pilots.
There's still an agreement. They are softening the agreement. I know that the extraterrestrials are wanting their existence to be known so that they can actually help humans more, to have more interactions with them. The problem now is that the people have been lied to for so many years that they feel that there is a real risk in the truth.
Okay, we've channeled many alien spirits in the past because they have the same soul energy as humans. With the assistance of our guide, Laura, we're going to try to channel with the spirit of one of the aliens killed in that crash. Laura, can we speak with one of those spirits?
Yes, I have brought one forward with you tonight, and he will answer your questions.
Okay, thank you for coming through, sir or ma'am. Can you tell us a little bit about your planet?
My planet is located pretty much in the center of the galaxy you refer to as the Milky Way. We are an old culture. We are a culture that has conquered much knowledge. We are a culture that totally understands how to move around the galaxy, the use of dimensions. We work with the committee of the galaxy for the betterment and for finding peace of all.
Okay, would you please describe yourself and how old you were when you died in that crash?
When I died in that crash, I was the equivalent of around 400 of your years. On our planet, we have a very long lifespan. We live peaceably with all of the others in the galaxy. I stood around 5.5 of your feet. We have, in comparison to yours, very large heads. We are highly intelligent. We have large eyes. We do not have mouths because we do not have to speak. We speak mentally to each other. We have been exploring your planet for hundreds and hundreds of years. We try to help. We try to guide. We try to do many things. Our reason for visiting your planet is only to help.
What was the particular reason for your mission?
Since you humans invented atomic energy, we needed to keep a closer eye on what was taking place. We tried to influence you not to test your heavy weapons. We were basically watching to see what was going to be happening in the future with your test. We did not want you to test large weapons because it could set off chain reactions in your atmosphere. We were simply attempting to learn what was taking place.
One of our listeners would like to know, if you have no mouth, how do you eat on your planet?
We don't eat, we absorb energies.
Okay. Would you describe a little bit about your ship?
Our ship that we were on had 8 individuals. They are actually a little bit complicated to fly when they are in your atmosphere. We had a problem with our navigation, and we started to get too low in your atmosphere, and we miscalculated, and we struck the Earth. Our ship was approximately 100 of your feet in diameter, and it had what you would describe as a saucer-like shape. We do have problems mechanically with some of our ships, and there have been other ships that have crashed in the past.
Did any of you survive?
There were 2 survivors to the crash. A rescue ship was immediately dispatched, and these 2 individuals were taken from the scene of the crash, and they did survive. Sadly, the rest of us did not.
Why are the governments of the world keeping your presence a secret?
As the Colonel stated, there is an agreement in place with all of the intelligent members of the galaxy. We are committed to trying to bring younger cultures, such as humans, to the point that they can participate completely with us in the governing of the galaxy. The governments are very fearful of what will happen when they admit that they have been lying for all of these years. But disclosure is inevitable. Disclosure will take place. There is no way that the governments can continue to keep these things a secret from the people. I know that the Galactic Committee is changing what they want to take place. They feel that it would be better to control how disclosure takes place than to have it found out by mistake. There are many, many extraterrestrial vessels in your atmosphere. It is inevitable that something will happen where disclosure will become a necessity.
Do you have any feel for when this disclosure will take place?
Disclosure is starting to take place now. It will happen in the very near future. I believe that within the next 5 years, everyone will understand that extraterrestrials are real and are here to help.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us and advancing our education. I know people are going to have a hard time believing we just talked to an alien that was present at Roswell, but so be it.
Okay, next we're going to move on and we're going to discuss the moon landing. In 1969, American astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first humans to land on the moon as the world watched live on television. However, some thought the entire landing was faked. We've channeled with the spirit of Mr. Armstrong in previous sessions, and he has been very forthcoming and has been a wonderful guest in the past. So, Neil Armstrong, thank you for joining us once again tonight.
Good evening, Neil, and I also would like to thank you. We enjoy your presence. Is there any doubt that you and Buzz Aldrin were on the moon?
None whatsoever. We were there. We left our footprints. We left the flag. We risked our lives to do it. There were a few things that we had to protect. There were times that we had to have silence in the mission because we were at Cold War with the Soviets. We did not want the Soviets to understand just how technologically advanced we were. We wanted to think that we were much more advanced. Actually, our trip to the moon was quite primitive. The computers we had were much less than the cell phones that you hold in your hands. So we were rushing to get there first. The Soviets had beat us with Sputnik, and there was no way that they were going to beat us to the moon.
In what other ways did the Cold War with Russia affect our race to the moon?
We were trying to have the Soviets expend as much of their resources as possible on space research. We felt that money spent on space research would not be spent on nuclear weapons. We wanted to stress their economies as much as possible. The Cold War was very difficult. We thought we were doing well in space, and all of a sudden the Sputnik shows up. We knew that we had to do something. We increased our spending. President Kennedy declared that we would be first on the moon. It was a very, very difficult time. Keep in mind that the United States and the Soviet Union each had thousands of nuclear warheads, enough to wipe each country off the map. We felt that if we could beat them in space, that we could beat their economies in the long run.
Would you please explain to us about the technologies available in 1969?
Excuse me. It was the beginning of the computer age. We were advancing rocket technologies. It was a very, very dangerous time for us because basically rocket technologies were being advanced by trial and error. We lost many of our astronauts in experiments. It was a time where we were pushing the limits. We knew that there were going to be great risks in going to the moon and back. We knew that the technologies were moving very, very rapidly. We hoped that we were capable of succeeding in the mission, but it was far from a sure thing.
Did you think that you would return to Earth safely?
To be honest with you, I gave myself about a 50-50 chance. I knew that we were doing things that had never been done. I knew that landing physically upon the moon was going to be the greatest danger that my life would ever see. But I wanted to do it. I was a fighter pilot, test pilot. I took my own life in my hands many times, and it was something that I really wanted to do.
And I thank you for that, Neil. Was there any part of the moon landing that was faked or not true?
There was nothing that was faked. What you saw was all true. There were things that were kept from you that were a bit suspicious to the general public. As I said earlier, we did not want as I said earlier, we did not want people to understand just how dangerous the journey was. We did not want the Soviets to know that we were really not as advanced as they thought we were.
Okay. We have a question from one of our listeners. Was Gus Grissom, who was your successor, murdered?
No, he was not murdered.
Glad to hear that. Okay. Were you aware that our government was working with aliens prior to leaving on your mission?
We had been told that aliens definitely existed. We were not told the details. We were told that we could possibly witness aliens on our journey to the moon. We had been, Apollo 8 had witnessed aliens. They had had no interaction, but when they came back, the presence of extraterrestrials was confirmed. They did not want us to speak or allude in any way to the fact that we were not alone. As your previous guests told you, there was an agreement with the Galactic Committee for years controlling what could be sold and what could not. We were partially briefed on what to expect. If we were to see aliens, then we were to refer to them as Santa Claus. That was the code word. And we did use that on part of the mission. So yes, we were aware of the possibility, and we did see them.
Did you see them while you were orbiting, or did you see them while you were on the moon?
Collins saw them on the backside, as did we. They have apparently been using the backside of the moon for millennia. We witnessed a huge ship. It was larger than we'd been prepared for. I think we surprised them. We had absolutely no interaction with them. There was no militant actions taken towards us. It was, to say the least, quite an experience.
So did you see any of them close enough to be able to describe them for us?
No, the ship, the large ship that they had, was a saucer shape. I would guess that it was maybe 3 football fields in size or larger. We did not see any individual activity around the saucer. We saw the same size ship on the backside of the moon as well.
Hey, our listeners are coming up with more questions. Why has there been such long delays in returning to the moon?
That was a political decision. Our government thought that if we returned to the moon, that it would discover more and more evidence of alien presence. We did explorations, but everything that we did that would disclose alien presence, the information could easily be manipulated. If a moon rover took a picture of an alien ship, for instance, that could be removed before it was made public knowledge. With the upcoming alien disclosure, there is no longer going to be a great need for secrecy, and it is a possibility that when our people go back onto the moon, that will be the time of full disclosure.
One of our questions from the chat room is, was that the only time that you saw a UFO in your career?
No, I had seen unidentified flying objects in many of my test flights and earlier in my career.
Okay. What is your understanding of the composition of the moon?
The moon is very interesting. There are actually hollow areas into the moon. We did a test where we crashed a ship into the moon, and it essentially vibrated like it was hollow. When we were orbiting the moon, we could see large entrances on the backside, large holes. The extraterrestrials have been using the backside of the moon for millennia. I think that they probably have a base created in the backside, but that I think will be part of the disclosure that will come the next time we send people up there.
Now that you're on the other side, what can you tell us about extraterrestrials?
Extraterrestrials are everywhere. They're in another dimension that we cannot see. They're interdimensional, and they can cross in and out of that dimension. Sometimes their ships will get accidentally come out of that dimension, and we'll see them. They are from many, many planets in our galaxy. They have incredible knowledge. They are trying to simply guide and help humans. They want humans to advance to the point that they can join their community. But there is no doubt the presence of extraterrestrials is real. Our government has lied to us for many, many years, and that is going to make it difficult when the truth truly comes out. No government likes to be recognized as liars, but once the realities become apparent, there will be no other answer for them.
Okay, one of our listeners would like to know, since you were up in space and could look down and see everything, what shape is the Earth? Is it round?
Of course. There's no doubt the Earth is round.
We're seeing more and more evidence of aliens. When do you think there will be a disclosure?
My opinion is that it will be part of the next manned moon mission.
How long has our government been working with extraterrestrials?
I'm aware of them working with them for hundreds of years, but I was not aware of that until I came back up here.
Yeah. What do you see as the future of China in space?
China is one of the greatest risks to the United States. They are spending huge amounts of money to become the leaders of the world. It is their desire that everyone will look to them as the world's greatest power. And to do that, they have to become the leaders in space. I think that the country that leads the world in space exploration will be the ones that the world looks to for guidance. China has many risks with their economy and with their huge population. So it will be very interesting to see if China can handle the huge expenditures of space exploration, of building the world's largest military, and being able to feed their people. It will be very interesting to see just how strong the foundation of China is. But those of us over here consider them the greatest risk for the future of evolution.
We've heard that from a lot of spirits on the other side. What do you see as the future? What is your opinion of Elon Musk and his role in space?
Those of us over here are very, very impressed with Elon Musk. He is not afraid to take risks. In many instances, NASA wasted huge amounts of money. NASA responded totally to the political system of the United States. They were dependent upon them for financing. They were, in many instances, NASA was holding back our space exploration. Musk made huge amounts of money, and he is a patriot. He is bringing innovation to the space program. The concept of reuse of rockets, the concept of many of the things that he is bringing to the program is very important. we feel that he will lead the United States in its role in space.
Okay, time really flies when you're having fun. It looks like we are out of time. Do you have a final message for us, Neil?
Yes, thank you once again. I keep saying I would return if asked, and you keep asking, so I keep returning. I hope that I'm not boring people with the things of which I speak. Space exploration is critical to the United States. We did what we could do to help our country progress. There are many patriots today that are doing the same. Space, we know so little about it. Once you're over here, you will understand just how little you really do know about space. In order for humans to evolve in the far future, they're going to have to learn to travel the stars. Without the ability to travel to other planets, when the time comes that the sun can no longer support life on Earth, humans will become extinct. If they continue to advance and learn to travel the universe, then when that time comes, they can establish communities on other planets. There are other planets that are conducive to supporting human life. You have absolutely no idea where they are or what they are or how far away they are. But if you choose to evolve peacefully, and that's the secret, then there will be a time that the aliens or the extraterrestrials will join with you humans, and in combination, you will conquer the knowledge that needs to be conquered for the long-term existence of humans. If humans don't learn to coexist peacefully, then that obviously is not going to happen. So thank you for allowing me to come back, and I'll say it again. If you want me to come back, I would be happy to do it.
I'll mark that down in my notebook.
Yes, thank you, Neil. You're always a treat, and you're always very truthful, so thank you very much. Okay, next week we're going to interview two Asian sacred leaders, Buddha and Confucius. We're going to see how their ancient beliefs and policies can help lead us into modern coexistence. This should be very interesting. You can submit questions, suggestions for future shows through our email, channelinghistoryon@parax@gmail.com. My 8th book, Messages of God for a Modern World, is now available on Amazon. It's in softcover and ebook. Consists of 60 channeled messages from our Wednesday podcast, The Weekly Message from Jesus. It's available in English. It's available in Spanish. You can find it on Kindle for immediate download. If you have the desire for a signed copy, you can go to my website, barrystrohm.com. All of our books are available there, and I even sign all of them. So all of our shows are available on our YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strohm. You want to download them, go to Podomatic.com and search Channeling History.
And I would also like to thank you for joining us this evening. I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead. God bless all of you.
Okay, thank you for listening. Please join us Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the ParaX Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to Channeling History. Tune in again next week for another electrifying episode, as we never know who will make an appearance or who will come through the portal. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2020. Our Story Begins by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.